This video will demonstrate how to set up additional properties in the AutoCAD Sheet Set Manager. Properties created this way can be adjusted later individually for each new sheet. The video will also cover all the necessary steps required to ensure that this functionality works properly. One of these preparatory steps is creating your own template. In general, you may already have an existing template, but it needs to be adjusted to be fully functional for use with a Sheet Set Manager. What does that involve? Here we are starting with a very simple title block, since it is for demonstration purposes only. You can recognize these elements as fields. Whenever you see an object in AutoCAD with a gray background, that indicates a field. So how do you insert a field? Use the field command. Simply click on it. For our purpose, we need fields that are related to the sheet set. Select the sheet set from the list, and the field name list is populated with several predefined field options, which are already available for your use. In this case, I used the current sheet project name as the project name field on the sheet. And I used the current sheet project number for the project number field. The next step is to select the current sheet custom option on the list. This option will display a list of properties, from which we can choose the ones we need. At the moment, this list is empty, because this template is not yet part of any sheet set. That means we first need to include this template in a sheet set. First, we will close the field form. And then we will save the template by selecting Save as Drawing Template. Choose the desired location and save the file. At this point, we can close the template, as it is no longer needed. To create custom property fields, we need to open the Sheet Set Manager. Use the Sheet Set command located at the top toolbar, or you can also type Sheet Set. This will open the Sheet Set Manager. We will begin by selecting New Sheet Set from the list. Once we click on it, the wizard opens, and we will begin by using the existing templates provided by AutoCAD. Click Next. You will see a list of predefined sheet sets for architecture, civil engineering, manufacturing, and more. Among them, there is also a completely empty sheet set, called New Sheet Set. That is the one we will choose. Click Next. For this example, we can leave the generic name. However, when working on real projects, it is recommended to enter a name that clearly describes your work. In the description field, it is also advisable to add a short description related to your sheet set, so you can easily recognize it later among other sheet sets. The important step here is to click on the Sheet Set Properties button to open the form for managing properties. For the sheet creation template, we insert the template we previously created. At this point, we have successfully linked the template with our sheet set. The template in my example contains two layouts. When creating your own layouts, it is a good practice to give them more meaningful names than generic ones, as shown here. Better examples would be A3 Landscape and A4 Portrait. We need to select Layout 1 and click OK. This line shows which template and which layout will be used when you create a new sheet. Here I also specify that I do not want to be prompted every time to choose a template, but instead want this one to be used by default. The next value we will enter is the project number. You may remember that we already used this field earlier on our title block. We will enter 1002 as the project number. Then we fill in the project name. For example, Sheet Set Manager Demo. That will be sufficient for now. Here we have a very important button, Edit Custom Properties. We click on it. This is the option that was previously offered as a drop-down list on the field form. As you can see, the list of custom properties is currently empty, which is why the drop-down list was empty as well. Now we will populate some fields. We click the Add button, which opens the Add Custom Property dialog. Let the property name be created date. And we can either enter a default value or leave it empty. That is the value that will be assigned when we create a new sheet. For this example, we will set it to January 1st, 2026. Next, we choose the owner of this property, whether it applies to the entire sheet set or only to individual sheets. Since the sheets in our set may be created on different dates, the created date property should belong only to the sheet, not to the sheet set. We click OK to finish creating this property. We will add a few more fields. For example, created by. As a default value, we will enter cadonist. Typically, this field contains the name of the person. This property also applies only to the sheet. In the same way, we will add two more fields, check date and check by. Our title block contains more fields, but for the purpose of this example, these 4 are sufficient. Here you can see the 4 custom properties we have created, and here are the values we entered for the fields. Click the OK button. Then Next. And finally Finish. A new sheet set has now been created. Now we need to insert these newly created fields into our template. We will demonstrate how to do this so you can clearly see what is being inserted. By clicking on our sheet set, a command list is displayed. We need to create a new sheet from here. But for the command to become active, at least one drawing must be open. Now we can select the new sheet command. Let's say the sheet number is 1, and the sheet title is Test. The file name is generated automatically and consists of the sheet number and the sheet title. In the field name Sheet Template, you can see that our template with a selected layout will be used automatically. Click OK, and when prompted we choose Replace. The sheet is now created. You open it by double-clicking on it. The sheet has been created based on our template, and Layout 1 has been used. Our template contains 2 layouts, in A3 and A4 formats. In this case, since it was set to be based on Layout 1, only that layout is opened. What you can notice is that the title block is already populated with the 2 values we entered earlier. Here, however, nothing is displayed. That is because there were no fields defined in the template. We will now proceed with linking the fields. First, we can slightly improve the visual appearance by adjusting the layout. For example, we can move this field lower by changing its height to, say, 54. Now we can start inserting the fields. We go to the Field command. Select the category related to the sheet set. And from the list, choose Sheet Set Custom. In the drop-down list, you can now see the custom fields we created in Sheet Set Manager. Select Created Date to link it with the Created Date field in the title block, and then click OK. On the Properties panel, you can adjust the alignment according to your preference. By default, it is set to top left, but you can choose a different option from the list, such as bottom left. You can also increase the text height, for example, to 2.5 mm, and adjust the positioning, for instance, to 6 mm for position Y, and 356 for position X, or choose other values until the layout looks exactly the way you want. We will now add the remaining fields in the same way as this first one. Why is this method useful? Because when you insert a field, you immediately see its value. This allows you to verify that you selected the correct field, that the formatting is correct, and that everything behaves as expected. Now, what needs to be done next? This document, onetest.dwg, is a completely new file created based on our template. We now need to save this document and overwrite the existing template we previously created. The original template already contained the title block and annotations, but it did not include these fields. So we overwrite the template by selecting Save As. Drawing Template. Choosing our template from the list. Clicking Save. Confirming with Yes. And then OK. Next, we delete this file, and we also remove this test sheet, as it was only used to link the old template with the fields. We choose Remove Sheet and click OK. Now, if we want to insert a new sheet, we go to New Sheet again. In Sheet Template, keep Layout 1. Set the sheet number to 1 again. And enter a meaningful sheet title. In this example, we will name it Demo. Click OK to confirm. Open the sheet by double-clicking on it in Sheet Set Manager. Now we will show how these fields can be edited. Click the template and select Properties. You can see that the fields are available and can be changed. We can change the created date to January 19th, 2026. And the check date to January 21st, 2026, and then click OK. However, you will notice that nothing has changed on the sheet. This is normal behavior in AutoCAD. Whenever you modify field values, you need to update the fields, either by using Update Fields or by saving the drawing. Once you save the document, the fields will be updated. As you may notice, when I inserted the fields earlier, I did not increase the font size to 2.5 mm for these 3 fields. In this case, we do not need to delete the sheet again. Instead, we can modify the template directly. However, keep in mind that when you change the template, nothing will change in this already created sheet. This is an important rule when working with templates in AutoCAD. A drawing created using a template will not be updated if you later modify that template. Let us now open the template to change the font size. Select Fields to modify. Change the font size to 2.5 mm. Save it again and close it. Nothing has changed on this existing sheet. Why is that? Because this sheet was created as a copy of the template, at the moment the sheet was created. At that time, the font height of these 3 elements was 2.2 mm, and that exact state was transferred to the sheet. Any new sheet you create afterward will use the updated template. Let us create a new sheet. For example, sheet number 2, with the title New Value. When we create and open it, you will see that the font size has changed to the new value of 2.5 mm, because the updated template was used. The changes did not affect the first sheet. You can only apply the changes manually. So always keep in mind that simply replacing or updating a template will not update drawings that were created using an earlier version of that template. This is a common source of frustration, especially for Plant 3D users. Plant 3D works on the same principle. Content is taken from a template, isometrics are generated, but any later changes to the template will not affect already created isometrics. To apply those changes, the isometrics must be deleted and again recreated. We have seen how fields can be inserted and automatically populated each time we create a new sheet. However, what have we actually achieved so far? We ended up with completely empty sheets. Both of them. The question now is, how do we place drawings onto our existing sheets? To do this, we go to Model Views. Here you can define the location from which the geometry will be referenced. Let me clarify this a bit. I already have a drawing created here in Model Space. That drawing had its own layout and 4 viewports that were looking into Model Space and displaying the geometry. Now, using this setup, I can reuse that same geometry so that it is also visible here in our sheet sets. First, we need to go to the View tab and create new views. We can do that in the View Manager, or by using New View command. What is a new view? It is essentially a window, similar to creating a viewport in Paperspace, but in this case, the view is created in Model Space and represents a specific view of your model. I have already created 3 views here. The first is called Complete, and it is just this part of the drawing. Another is called Detail, which shows only the stair connection detail. The third view shows the lower section, with the door position. Next, what we need to do is to select the folder location where the geometry is stored. Keep in mind that this dialog searches for folders, not individual files. In my case, the folder is Downloads. Now we can see our drawing. You can think of this drawing as an XREF for our drawing called toNewValue. Here you can see the 3 model views listed. We right-click on the first one and select Place on Sheet. As you can see, the view appears very small because the scale has not been adjusted. In the original drawing, the scale was 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, which is approximately 1:50. That same scale has been transferred to our sheet. You can either delete these views and recreate them with a different scale, or you can adjust the scale directly on the drawing. To do this, click on the viewport and select the desired scale from the list. Let's set it to 1:5. And here it is. Our element is displayed on the sheet. Now, insert the other 2 views the same way, making sure to check their scales. At this point, we have successfully linked the model space geometry from the original drawing with the drawing called toNewValue. If something changes in the original drawing, you will receive a notification indicating that the XREF has been modified. It will also show you which XREF is affected. If you are aware of the changes, there is no need to run a comparison. Simply accept the changes, and they will be applied to your drawing. You may also notice that there are no dimensions visible in our views. This is because all the dimensions used here are annotative and are not adjusted to the scale we have just applied. We have a blog post that explains annotative styles in more detail, and the link can be found below in the description. Additionally, on the first sheet, we can insert a sheet list table. This table represents the contents of the entire sheet set. The simplest setup is to include the sheet number and sheet title, although you can add additional columns if needed. On the Subsets and Sheets tab, we enable the option to include all sheets from the sheet set in the table. We click OK and place the table on the sheet. The gray background behind table values indicates that if any of them change, for example, a sheet name, the table will be updated automatically. So why are sheet sets important? They allow for very efficient data management. All the sheets we create share the same title block values, without the need to enter them manually for each sheet. At the same time, individual sheet data can be modified independently. For example, we can change the creation date or the author on one sheet without affecting the others. This is the flexibility that this document management approach provides. Finally, publishing the entire sheet set is very straightforward. We save the file, right-click on the sheet set, and select Publish. Publish to PDF. The result is a single PDF file containing all the sheets from our sheet set. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips and tutorials. See you in the next video.